All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to Fearless by Fuel. We've got an awesome guest today. Breakthrough speaker, Brian Biro. Brian's been on the show once before, back in February, and it was such a hit that we got to bring Brian back to share his deep wisdom, experience, and practicality. You know, Brian breaks it right down to basically fundamentals, simple things that we can all do to get out of our own way, as I like to put it. And Brian's a fellow fuel instructor. Both of us now have AI twins. So essentially, what does that mean? It means that you can interact with us 24/7 from anywhere in the world. And when I say us, it's an AI twin downloaded, uploaded with our entire body of work for the most part. So in my case, my some call it bot, but my twin is it's downloaded with books I've written, hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos, hundreds of interviews, keynotes, things like that. Brian's done over 2,000 keynotes around the world. He's the author of 16 books. And so that's a body of work that's amazing. And the thing about these AI twins is it's perfect recall. You know, people will ask me stuff about things I wrote, 30 years ago. And honestly, I have to go back and check because I don't have that kind of recall. The other thing about the AI twins I want to emphasize is that none of it is going to the internet, going to Google to find things out. Essentially, when you talk to us, our twins, and ask it a question, get some coaching, things like that, it's not looking up answers. It's either we can answer it honestly, directly from our own experience, or we'll tell you we can't, and then we'll refer you to someplace else. So it's an amazing use of AI. Now, a lot of people are afraid of AI these days, which is another reason for this show, Fearless. This is our 17th episode, launching in January, powered by Fuel. And if you're not familiar with Fuel, check it out, myfuel.io. Now in over 50 countries around the world, growing quickly, and the company's only it's not even 3 years old yet. So a phenomenal platform of world-class speakers, authors, consultants, coaches, teachers, where you can get an amazing amount of help and support for your career, for your personal life, your family life. It's just amazing. And those of you who know me, when I started my company 38 years ago, honestly didn't really know what I was doing, but I read books. Back then, there was no Google or internet or YouTube, things like that. But I was thirsty, hungry for wisdom and knowledge. And wisdom comes from experience. So once you read something, you got to do something with it to really get it. Brian's going to talk about that. The metaphor we use sometimes is the metaphor of golf or sport or an instrument. If you're into music, you got to play it to get it. You don't learn this stuff in textbooks. So the whole Fuel platform, and Brian can speak to this too, the whole Fuel platform is an offering of courses, mini courses, micro courses, where you learn a tool in 5 minutes, and then you have to practice that tool. And then you learn another tool. So it's an immediate application of training to the point where now you've got a tool set that you can use in sales, in speaking, in life mastery. Some of my courses have to do with just finding inner peace in a world of uncertainty and chaos. How do I maintain that poise? I like to say the poise of a quarterback walking up to the line of scrimmage. You prepare, and you've got a play call and a strategy and a game plan. But the truth is, when the ball's snapped, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's what happens when we get up in the morning. We wake up, we've got goals, we've got to-do lists, things like that. But there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, a lot of things going on that can frighten people. So Fearless exists. This podcast exists to help people get past those limiting beliefs, those doubts, those worries, anything that paralyzes you from going forward or holds you back. Because when that happens, you end up living with regret. When I shoulda, I coulda. No, this is about go ahead, make your mistakes. learn from anything you might consider a failure, because it really isn't. It's success in disguise, and move from there. So Brian, wow, 16 books, thousands of speeches. You just got back from a big road trip. You're the breakthrough guy. You got people breaking boards and breaking through limiting beliefs. So welcome, Brian. And we're going to talk about breakthrough beliefs today, and how do we just turn worry and stress and anxiety into, as you put it, enthusiastic action. Enthusiastic.
I love it. I love that you brought up to how important it is to remember that when we hear, we forget. When we see, we're more likely to remember. It's when we do that we understand. That came from Confucius. So that's been around. That wisdom's been a long time. And that's really about what your show is about. How the only way we break through is to get in the game. The great one from ice hockey, Wayne Gretzky, said something I thought was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. He said, "I missed 100% of the shots I never took." You only break through when you take the shot. And so just to add on to what you said about fuel, is what's beautiful about it is in bite-sized chunks with an array of 60 plus of the greatest thought leaders, speakers in the world, so that you can get these bite-sized chunks and put them into action. The older I get, the more I get clear that simplicity is genius. On my wall behind me is my mentor. He was my friend, the greatest coach, in my opinion, of all time. His name was John Wooden. If you don't know who John Wooden is, watch a rerun of good old what's the guy's name? Oh, Ted Lasso. Watch Ted Lasso, because John Wooden's pyramid of success is on his wall. But Coach Wooden was, in everything he did, he looked for simplicity. And when it comes to really taking steps forward, if you try to give too much information, that's drinking from a fire hose, and all you do is get thirsty. But if you can take one step, suddenly you can see further than you could see when you were on the ground. And then that next step and that next step. And so that is really what fuel is about. And this AI twin thing is mind-boggling, because as you said, it has perfect recall of the information that we fed it. So you're getting authentic John Murphy. You're getting the authentic Brian Biro, the authentic Jim Cathcart, of all this work that we put in for decades. And it immediately accesses, it's in us. Everything that we've ever learned and experienced is in our brains. The challenge is accessibility, because there's so much in there, we can't get to it as quickly. Well, AI gets there quickly, and it gives you a chance to, if you wake up at midnight thinking, I got this question I got to ask, you can go to that AI twin, and there you go. You're going to get an answer right away if it's within our bandwidth of the knowledge that we brought. So anyways, and I'm glad that you brought up the breakthrough experience, because you and I have such a parallel kind of vision about what life is about. It's breaking through from fear to love. That's it. And I'm called America's Breakthrough Speaker because the last thing I do in all of my events is I have everyone break through a 1-inch thick board, karate style. And it's the greatest combination, individual and team experience. And it's kind of what this show is all about. The individual part is related to the meaning, which only we can give it. So every person I guide to write on their board and get clear about, what is this obstacle, this fear, this habit, this doubt that keeps holding me back, that I'm ready to get beyond. I'm ready to break through. I'm ready to leave it behind me. And so I've had people bring their families back together, beat cancer, change their whole viewpoint on working with people that before they thought God had put on the planet to bug them, bring teams together, live their dreams, get beyond that fear. So the first part of the individual breakthrough is related to the meaning, because on the front of the board, they represent, because you got to see the obstacle. And the other side of the board, they envision, which a lot of your work is about vision, is they envision what's waiting for me when I have broken through. See, most of the time we get so caught up in looking at the fear that we don't recognize what's on the other side of the fear. So example, when I broke my very first board 37 years ago, on the front of my board, I wrote procrastination. Incidentally, the best thing to do about procrastination, John, put it off. Anyways, mine was specific procrastination. It was procrastination about writing books. I always wanted to write books. I always liked to write when I was a kid, but I always found a way to put my dream off. Well, write it when the kids are older, when I saved up some money, when I got some time. It's the only reason I didn't write my book. Fear. I've never done it before. What if I can't? So I wrote the word procrastination in the front of my board, but on the back of my board, I wrote, wow, this was where it really started to come alive. Freedom, abundance, and truth to my word. That when I actually overcame the fear and I wrote a book, I'd bring my family freedoms we didn't realize. We'd have new source of abundance, and I'd be living my word to myself every day. So that first part of the individual breakthrough is related to that meaning, which only we can give to it. But there's another part to it. If I have 1,000 people in an event I'm speaking at, we would start the board breaking with 100 circles of 10 people each. So if John, if you were in your circle, 9 people around you as you step forward to break a board are going, John, 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 all right, cheering their heart out.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have never received that kind of unconditional support. They've never been cheered for like that in their lives. And for them, that's the breakthrough moment of, I didn't realize what it feels like to have everyone support me that much. The team part, equally powerful, team breakthrough. There's something about it that even the most shy, introverted people, that goes off to the sides during board breaking, because there's just, we want each other to break through so much. And the best part of the breakthrough on the team experience, the best day of my life was my daughter's wedding day. And it was for something I couldn't have expressed until I experienced it. And that was for probably 6 hours on her wedding night. I didn't think of myself once. All I could do was think of her. They tell me I was laughing and crying at the same time. I don't know. I just remember her. And when those people are going, John, 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 those 9 people around you, they're feeling about you the way I felt about my daughter. They've moved from ego to we-go. So that breakthrough experience is making it happen as opposed to just learning about it. Just as you said, nothing changes until we get in the game. If things are to change, I must change.
Yeah, no question, Brian. And, we're both experiential teachers. And the only way you can really teach from experience is to have the experience. And so I love your story about how you first broke through that board. Would you say 37 years ago or something like that? And specifically what it was you were breaking through. And I think that's just so important, because we have to identify whatever it is limiting us, right? Those limiting beliefs. And I've talked a lot about energy. I love this quote from Nikola Tesla. He said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So when you have those 9 people around you in your circle of 10, and you're being cheered on, that's energy. And you were a swim coach, this. I mean, when you've got people feeding you, it's like they're feeding you power, really. They're
Absolutely.
feeding you
Absolutely.
with strength. And then you break through, because it's, in some cases, like you said, some people just don't have that kind of support, or they were raised maybe with good intentions from parents or aunts and uncles or siblings, but they're naysayers.
Yeah.
I call them the yeah buts. Yeah, but you could never make it as a musician. You need to get a law degree or something like that.
You're energy vampires. Yeah, it's what they call. Whenever you get excited that you think you can, they tell you that you can't. A quick story about that energy piece and how that amplifies. So the biggest board breaking experience I ever led, the biggest event, was 4,000 people. That's a lot of wood. All right. But the last person to break that day. So this was in Atlanta, Georgia. And the way I do it, so I had 400 circles of 10 people each in this giant exposition hall. And I tell my board holders, who I've trained to hold the boards, which is an incredible experience of coaching, that if somebody doesn't break their board with any of them out in that hall, any of those 400, after 3 good tries, that I've asked your holder to ask you to take a break, to watch, to cheer, to support the other 9 people. And then every circle, all 400 of those people, when their circle is done, they all move to the stage towards the front of the room. So it's kind of like the old rock concert where all people are right up against the stage and the guy jumps out onto lays out in front. So in this Atlanta event, I had 3,999 people right up in front of this giant tall stage, because we had to be really high for them to see. Well, the last person to break through that day, or to try to break through, was 95 years old. She was a 95-year-old woman. She could not have been 4'10". She was a little tiny woman. Her granddaughter actually had to come up on stage behind her, hold her by her waist from behind so she wouldn't teeter over. And remember, she had tried 3 times before. Well, talk about energy. Taking that incredible energy of the 10 people, but now it's 4,000 people. John, the roar from those people was so loud, I lost hearing that day. But she took that energy, that
Wow.
vibration, and this 95-year-old woman went right through that board. And here's the most beautiful thing. 3,999 people had incredible breakthroughs that day. They loved their breakthrough. It's nothing like it, that experience of it. But the one that meant the most to them was that 95-year-old woman. Because the best thing about us human beings is we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. They'll remember that, and that fills them with a new possibility for themselves and the people that they love. Hey, if that 95-year-old woman wouldn't give up, first of all, that's the first thing. She didn't give up. And
Yeah.
number two, if she could do that, man, what could we all do if we really stick with it? So, and what I know this show, we want to talk a lot about the concept of breakthrough beliefs. And the
Mhm.
in preparation to break the boards, the first and foremost preparation isn't physical. The physical part is really quick and simple and clear. It's about beliefs. And a belief
Mhm.
is just a feeling of certainty about what something means. So the first thing we know is we all believe something today we probably didn't believe 10 years ago. All right. So we know that beliefs are not, some beliefs we'll hold on to for our whole lives, but they can
Mhm.
change because they're nothing but an emotional feeling. A belief is about that sense of certainty about what something means or is. And so in preparing people to break through, I've spent 50 years working on breakthrough beliefs and narrowing it down to about 6 of them. And I have 3 different careers. First, as a US swimming coach, working with young athletes, as you and I both very much in sport, about helping them break through. Though I coach swimming, you don't coach swimming, you coach people. It's
Mhm.
their belief, it's their thoughts, it's how they deal with challenge and adversity, how resilient they are. So you really coach people, and no matter what field you're in. So the first area where I started to develop these breakthrough beliefs was in coaching swimming. Then I went in my corporate career. I ended up becoming a vice president of 2 pretty large companies, trying to build a breakthrough culture leading to breakthrough results. And kind of found that the beliefs I'd started to formulate as a coach really fit in the corporate world. And now for the last 30, almost 37 years, these breakthrough beliefs have really narrowed down to where they're just crystal clear. So if you want, we can kind of go through those beliefs.
Oh, yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it. In fact, Brian, I was part of the lineup for today. Just one quick comment on beliefs, and I love something that Dr. Joe Dispenza says a lot, and he says because he's a brain doctor essentially, and a world-class speaker, and Dr. Joe says that what fires together wires together, and he's talking now about the brain activity. So when
I
we
love it.
think something long enough, we have these thoughts, these repetitive thoughts. It's like they wire into beliefs and that
I love it.
story we tell ourselves. And if I'm 95 years old and the story I'm telling myself is I'll break my hand if I try to break this board, and if that's the belief, and we become what we dwell on. So what do we dwell on is a critical question. And I also want to talk to you just a little bit about vision, because you talk a lot about vision. I broke my first board. I think it was almost 40 years ago in a session. And what I was trained to do is see through the board. Don't see the board, see through it. And it's kind of like
Absolutely.
what you said, see through procrastination to abundance, and you're seeing yourself thrive. Because I think a lot of people, and I do a lot of visioning exercises, both with corporations as well as with individuals. And I tell them to really stretch to an ideal. And then when they see that ideal, if there's a board in front of them called a limiting belief, okay, that's the problem. You
That
know,
is. That
that
is.
you've just uncovered your problem. So yeah, let's get into that. So
This
breakthrough
I love
beliefs.
being on your show, John, because you just ignite things in me. It's like my AI twin just fired off. And there's 2 sides to that. You hit it exactly. 99% of breaking through the board isn't about your hand or your arm or your body. It's about your vision. If you focus on the board, you get the board. You focus on the breakthrough, which is the other side, the side where you've written down what's waiting for me on the other side. It's like a piece of paper. But here's a really fascinating other side of that breakthrough belief focus. I did an event for somebody I'm sure you were familiar with, Bob Proctor. So Bob Proctor was
Oh, yeah.
a great guy, great teacher, very much about what you focus on is what you create. Well, he and I were friends, and he had a heart attack. And he had done a year-long program called The Matrix, and he wasn't able to get up on stage. So he asked me to come and cover for him. And so as I'm flying up to Toronto to do this event, small event, only like 40 people who invested a lot of their money into being able to work with him for a year. I just, for whatever reason, started thinking about the 15, at that time, I've been speaking for about 15 years. So this was over 20 years ago. And I was thinking about in those first 15 years, I probably had 10 or 12 people who I held the boards for who did not break through with me. And if I had lined them up, John, you would have said, oh, I get it, because they were all physically it was clear they had physical challenges probably to break the boards. But I had this thought, talk about belief. As I'm flying there, all of a sudden, for the first time ever, it hit me. What if it wasn't them? What if it was my belief? What if as I looked at them, and though I wanted them to break through, and I pretended that I believed in them, I wasn't all in. I was doubting them. I was bringing some uncertainty. And so on that way there, I made up my mind. I made a commitment that never again would I ever underestimate or prejudge a person. I'm not inflict my doubt into them. Release that doubt. Own possibility instead of limit. Well, it turned out that I always choose the first breaker. Actually, I'm led to choose the first breaker. It's just spirit leads me to the right person. And the person at this event was a young man named Greg, and he was 21 or 22 years old, and he was paraplegic. He had jumped in a pool less than a year before, misjudged the depth of the pool, and severed his spine. And he was there with his dad, and it was a miracle almost that he was there that soon, that he could travel because he came from British Columbia. He also had his hands like this and not moved his hands, but I could see in his eyes he wanted to break through so much. And for whatever reason, he was the one I chose to break the first board. So picture 40 people around this one young man. He's in a wheelchair. He has not moved his right hand. But I had this new belief, the belief that everybody's got more possibility than I think. And I watched and they watched. It was almost miraculous. His index finger moved. His other fingers turned. He reached out. He went through the board, and he went right through the board. His eyes never moved from my eyes, which is where I teach people to look beyond the board, look into the holder's eyes. The room collapsed around him, tears and emotion. Here's the power of belief. Not only was that an incredible moment, but since that day, 21 years ago, not one person I've ever held for has not broken through. So it was me. Yeah. It was my belief. That's the power that we have in our beliefs, that as soon as we bring that doubt, that belief it's as if we look at a belief as like a stool. The top of the stool is the belief. As soon as we bring doubt, we take away a leg and it's going to fall over. So the thing we want to do is reinforce those beliefs with more legs. So anyways, you got me to think about that story. I got the chills still telling it. 15 years after he broke his board, he wrote to me about that experience, and I actually helped him. Now he's a professional speaker. So it's pretty awesome.
It truly is, Brian. I mean, what an amazing story. And you coached at a much higher level than I did, but I love your comment about you coach people, not the sport. I only coached like my sons and daughters years ago in volleyball and football and baseball and basketball, but never at a higher level. But I coach executives to this day, and you've got to see the potential, beyond the present, to see, you have to have the vision, not just them, right?
Absolutely. And, yeah, John
you have so many great.
Coach Wooden's great. He had a million quotes. He was like the quote machine, but one that really expresses that I had not been living until that breakthrough moment on that flight there. And then Greg's breakthrough is there are no overachievers. He believed that. And what he was saying is we have more in us than we think, that every one of us has more breakthrough potential, has the opportunity. And that's why I look at today as the greatest gift we've ever been given. Um, Today we have a chance to be kinder than we've ever been. Today we have a chance to learn something that could change the trajectory of our lives. Today we have a chance to apply something we've learned that we always knew, but we never took action on. And as soon as we take action on, we actually own it. And so with that belief, suddenly you're focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And as soon as you focus on that, you begin the motion of progression. So I'll tell you my very, very first belief, because it's the first breakthrough belief we use to break through the boards, which is really about breaking through in life. And it's when your why is compelling enough, you will figure out how. You know, most of us have been taught that if we're not getting the results we want, it's about strategy and tactics. Now, don't get me wrong, strategy and tactics can be fantastic. They can make a massive difference. But your compelling why, your purpose, eats them for breakfast. You know, best example I can give in my own life, when my daughters were little, they were 8 and 3. One night they came into my office. I was so caught up in my career and so caught up in trying to do, you know, really make the best for my family, and that I wasn't present with them very much. And one night they came into my office when I could have been and should have been tucking them in. And they looked at me with their innocent 8 and 3-year-old eyes and said, "Daddy, we just want to know, do you love your phone more than you love us?" Emerson said, "What you do screams so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying."
Right.
I was living my life as if my phone, and this wasn't even a cell phone. This was a phone that plugged into the wall in those days. That night, they gave me a compelling why, a shining purpose that is my number one purpose, which is to be fully present with every person that I can be in whatever time I have left in this life. When that compelling came, it shifted my whole life. And I realized that I could be present with them and that I could make that decision. So when your why is compelling enough, you'll figure out how. In the case of the board breaking, it's whatever you write on that board that you got to break through, it's got to be compelling. When I wrote the word procrastination about not writing my books, that was not a little deal. That was a huge deal. Because every day I put off writing my book, I lied to myself about living my word. And incidentally, the end of that story about the books, about my first breakthrough, that 31 days to the day that I broke that first board with the word procrastination on it, I finished the first chapter of my first book. And I didn't stop writing it for 18 months until it was done. All right. And since that time, I've written all those books. So the point is, when you take that action, you create progression. So first belief, when your why is compelling enough, you'll figure out how. So if you're not getting the results you want, even before you just think about strategy and tactics, get passionate about the why. I know you and I both have read the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Probably one of the greatest books of all time. If you haven't read it, folks, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was in Auschwitz, perhaps the worst of the concentration camps during World War II. And he said that those that survived the worst inhumanity to man, those that survived were those that had a purpose left undone. It wasn't their physical stature, it wasn't their youth or their age. It was that they had a purpose left undone. Whether it was a child they had to get back to, whether it was work they must complete. In very real sense, if you're not inspired, you're on the way to getting expired. And the only way you get inspired is by purpose or compelling why. So that's the first belief.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to get you back on this show to talk more about those beliefs, Brian, because we're pretty much out of time now. But you know, you remind me of, and in fact, I did a show on this called "When Your What and Your Why is Important Enough, the How Shows Up." And the best example of that in my life is, you know, when I left the corporate secure position to start my practice. And one of the reasons I did that was for my children, because I worked so many hours. I wouldn't see my oldest daughter awake during the week, because I'd leave early in the morning, get home late at night, and she'd be asleep. So, you know, in the middle of the night, I might be rocking her, you know, when she wakes up. But I just thought, when did I sign up for this? And there was something calling me, a purpose to teach and to do this and be home. So I had something I called my 100-day policy. So even when I was thriving and my business was growing and I was traveling around the world and teaching, I wouldn't do it for more than 100 days a year. So I set boundaries. So, you know, and What does that mean? It means I'm home 265 days. Now I'm writing books and things like that during that period. I'm not just sitting idle and whatnot. But I mean, I could coach my children in their sports. I could walk them to school, help them with their homework. That was fundamental to me. My wife did not work outside the home, so it was my income or what. And but I had to set those boundaries.
That's what we've got to
Because that
do.
was part of my
We've got to
yeah,
do it
that's
with
part of
these
my
things
why.
nowadays. We got to do it with these things and put them away, because you're not going to put them
Yeah.
away unless you decide I'm going to set it as a boundary, because there's nothing more powerful than being fully present. I mean, it's such a parallel to you and I on the belief. And now as you look back, you go, thank goodness for that 100-day policy. You know, it didn't take away from your work. It actually probably
Yeah.
enhanced it too.
It did. And, you know, Brian, as they got older, I mean, they've been to every state in the country except Alaska. I haven't gotten them to Alaska yet. Now my daughter's turning 40, you know, and I've got grandkids and that whatnot. But every state in the country, and I don't know how many countries, quite a few countries, you know, around Europe and South America, North America, Canada, Mexico, things like that. All over the place. So that experience, I remember one of the time my youngest son, we came back from Greece and he had been at the Acropolis, and we went back into school. One of the first papers he had to write was on Aristotle, and he was just like, I was just there, you know. Talk about experiential learning and whatnot. But you know, and I'll leave this closed with you and let you finish it out, Brian. But you know, I'm a big believer in the energy, you know, and the world we live in. Einstein once said the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. So the culture, that's being surrounded by people cheering you on, is the field, and you're the particle. We're all particles essentially. And you could break that right down to 50 trillion cells in your body, which are particles. And what field are you feeding them with your mind? You know, what kind of environment are you giving your own body? And the other thing I love, I read from the Tao Te Ching every morning. And, you know, the Tao, T-A-O, in a word, is flow, or the great current of life. Everything is in flow. Everything is changing all the time. So rather than resist change, you use that energy, that flow, to your advantage. And Tao masters, martial artists, I'm told, because I'm not one, use only 4 ounces of force to throw someone across. 4 ounces. So when you got a 95-year-old lady there who somehow realizes it's not just me, right? There's a field of energy, especially when you got 4,000 people cheering for you. That's powerful energy. And in sports, we see it as momentum a lot. When that momentum shifts in a basketball game or a football game or a tennis match, watch out, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
that momentum is it's energy, it's flow. So a couple of closing comments, Brian, you know, takeaway or two. You've already given so many.
Well, I'd say in a kind of alignment with what you just said, one of the things I truly believe and say in every event I teach is that to everyone we touch, our energy is our example. People won't remember that much of what we say, but they'll never forget our energy. They get it before we open our mouths and after we close our mouths. And know that your energy is your choice. It's a choice based upon how you move. It's a choice based upon focusing on purpose. All right, focusing on what you want more than what you don't want. And it's a choice in being eager to release your energy vampires. So, you know, those, because they have no power unless you give them the power. And you don't do it out of anger, you do it out of joy. And then I guess the combination of energy and presence is the real source of our opportunity to break through to our potential. Because without presence, energy can be wasted. It's not with us where we are now. But with presence, that's where you get that only 4 ounces of pressure to have people flying around you, because you are focused in this moment, which is all we actually have. So just a blessing to you. You do incredible work. I mean, we could, I thought we were going for longer, so I was probably rattling off too much, but give me a chance to come back. We got 5 more breakthrough beliefs to go through.
Oh, absolutely, Brian. You know it. You'll be back because I mean we definitely have the same mindset, if you will, about breakthrough thinking and whatnot, and being present. Nothing's more important than being present. You can't change the past. The future isn't here yet, and if you're not present, you bring the past into the future. That's just the story you tell. So I guess simple metaphor. If you're teeing up a golf ball, you don't want to be thinking about the last hole or the shot that you blew in the second hole. That's going to screw everything up. You got to stay present, and you got to see the ball going, straight and into the cup and not into the forest, which is what sometimes happens to me. So, and the other thing I love about what you say, Brian, is that we're all, and leadership is making choices. And what I always suggest to people is that every minute of every day when you're around people, you are demonstrating either positivity or negativity. So it's in your body language, it's in the tone of your voice, it's in the words you speak. And so when you start thinking about what am I demonstrating in the now, in the present, is it a good example for the world or not? Is it integrous? Is it honest? I love your words, kind, humble, and joyful. Those are I know those are your kind of your personal mantra. So yeah, we're going to get you back on for more breakthrough belief discussion. And for listeners, please subscribe, share. This is all on YouTube, the Fearless channel. Share it, watch the replay, send them on to people. If you got value out of this, like I always do from the guests, it's amazing. So help us, help you, help the world, if you will. Next week, I got Penny Zenker, another fuel instructor. Penny, the focusologist.
She's brilliant. Yeah. She really is.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about focus, which is certainly another topic that Brian and I could talk about all day. Just how important it is to stay focused, just like that golfer hitting the ball, right? And the following week, we got Bryn Tillman, another fuel instructor and brilliant woman. So we've got a great lineup. Again, subscribe, share, and go to Fuel and have a conversation with Brian's AI twin or mine, or Penny Zenker's or Bryn Tillman's. There, I don't know, Brian, what, 15, 20 instructors now that have the AI twins available.
At least that now, yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. I have conversations with myself to remind myself of things I forgot 25 years ago.
I do too. I love talking to my twin. It's like I'm getting a refresher. That doesn't hurt. So with that, thank you, everybody. Tune in next week for Penny and check out Fuel and check out Brian. Go to Brian's website.
It is indeed. Joy to you now. Thanks, John. You're awesome.